From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. Matt, you and I talked briefly about this first voicemail that I can't wait to get your take on this, because this is it's unbelievable that we haven't talked about this yet.
All right, well, let's play it.
Hi, my name's Ernest. I am a big fan of the show, new listener, but still a big fan. And there's a giant pool of mercury that was found, I forget where. It was on Ancient Aliens once. But they found a giant pool of mercury, and they were talking about how superconductors, if they're kept cold enough, can actually hover on Mercury, which is crazy. I don't know if you guys had heard about this. There's like theories and such about how that's how the pyramids were built and all that unexplainable phenomenons from our 5,000 years ago. It'd be great to have you guys do a spot about it, because I don't really know much about it, and I can't really find a lot of information on it. Thanks. Have a great day.
Nice. Thank you, Ernest, and welcome aboard, man. Thanks for checking out the show.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, we're talking about Ancient Aliens.
Mm-hmm.
Now, anyone who's been listening to this show for a long time, you know, we love us some Ancient Aliens, but you take those with a meteor-sized grain of salt, but there's still stuff in there that is fascinating and that is worth looking into. And my goodness, this is one I had never heard of, Ben.
Yeah, it's one of those. So longtime listeners know that that Matt and I were definitely kind of bookworms. We're always reading about things like I still have my entire collection of the Time Life Mysteries of the Unknown set.
I've seen it.
And that's true. Yes, I wouldn't shut up about it. And this is something that I place squarely in the world of stuff they don't want you to know. If any of this is true, then this could be hidden history. So, Ernest, what we'd like to do is reply to what I see as 3 points in your wonderful message, and then we'll take them one by one. So first, maybe the smallest point to get out of the way, yes, at temperatures below about 4 degrees Kelvin, mercury does become a superconductor. The next question is, how cold is 4 degrees Kelvin? In Fahrenheit, 4 degrees Kelvin is equal to negative 452.47 degrees Fahrenheit, or negative 269.15 degrees Celsius for the rest of the world. So this is quite a burden, right? If you want to create a superconductor with mercury, the first thing you have to do is figure out how to get it that cold.
And how to keep it that cold.
Yeah, more importantly, how to keep it that cold long enough for it to do what you want it to do. And frankly, from everything we understand about ancient uses of mercury, it probably didn't have the technology to do this on a reliable, reproducible scale. Next point, Ernest. Yes, liquid mercury has been found in ancient sites. It's been found in ancient tombs. There was liquid mercury found under a pyramid in Mexico. There's a great story about that from The Guardian in 2015. The mercury they found was still in liquid form, of course. It's at the end of a tunnel beneath this Mexican pyramid known as the Pyramid of the Feathered Serpent. This is in Teotihuacan, the city the ruins of a city in central Mexico. And the folks who found this, they're legit archaeologists. They're not just trying to get news stories because they're publishing a book or something like that. This is their work. This is their job. These are their careers. Mercury is is weird because, as far as the experts know, in the case of Mesoamerica, Mercury didn't have a readily apparent practical purpose, but it has been discovered at other sites. So, because it's been found at other ancient sites in this part of the world, it leads us to believe or to reasonably assume that Mercury at least served a symbolic purpose. Of course, there's always the possibility that it served some practical purpose that we in 2021 don't understand. It could have been, according to one guy, Dr. Gomez, Sergio Gomez, it could have been symbolic of an underworld river or lake. I don't know. What do you think about all this so far, Matt?
Well, the first thing I think is what is it? 1,800 years ago, roughly, or something like that, when these folks were entombed, or at least this one in Teotihuacan. They How did they get the mercury there? How did they get a pool of mercury? And how badly
Mhm.
poisoned was that person or persons that moved all that mercury? Um, no, I totally see what you're saying, because it doesn't make much sense if you are imagining yourself in our current understanding of what life was like for humans in that time. What would you use mercury for outside of, like you said, some kind of symbolic purpose? Um, and the big question here, and the one that Ernest puts forth, is, well, maybe there is a different purpose that was practical, that has something to do with maybe a technology we just didn't know about or don't know about.
Mhm. Yeah. See, this is the thing. Okay, there's another thing you need to know about this tomb, Ernest. Uh, there's other stuff that is yet to be explained in different parts of this complex. In 2013, archaeologists were using a robot. How cool is that? To explore an unexcavated portion of a tunnel, and there they found these metallic spheres that they called disco balls near some pyrite mirrors. They called them, yeah, because why not? They called them disco balls because it's unique. They didn't know what to make of it. So it was up to them. It's kind of like when you're if you're a biologist, a biologist in days of old might discover an animal or an organism they completely didn't understand, and they would just sort of name it after something they were familiar with, or name it after a mentor or a teacher that inspired them. Or, of course, because they're humans, they would name it after themselves. So they would be like, and Matt, I don't think you would ever do this. We'll pick on Paul today. They would be like, I'm naming this Paul's Komodo. This is Paul's lizard. Everybody call it that. And then, people would run with it. So maybe in the future, these things will just continually be referred to as disco balls. So the point is, there's weird stuff here, more so than just the liquid mercury that's yet to be explained. We know that Mesoamerican societies could produce liquid mercury, and we know how they did it. They took cinnabar, mercury ore. They used cinnabar to create the red pigment that was used in the society for decorating royalty and jade objects and artifacts. So, in the process of heating this ore, they could make liquid mercury. So this is something that's known. However, if someone says, okay, the ancient alien folks are taking one weird tomb in Mesoamerica and they're stretching it to make an episode, there's another part of the world, ancient China, where there's also mercury. Like the first emperor of China, Qin Shi Huang, died in 210 BCE. He created the first unified nation of China, and in central China, his tomb is surrounded. It's like buried in this hill, and it's surrounded by this moat of mercury.
Whoa.
So they did it too. That brings us to other things. So did they independently? These civilizations, did they independently decide that mercury was the jam for prominent dead people in their civilization, or did they find some kind of efficacy there that we don't understand? Maybe one of the more out there ideas is, were they in contact somehow that is yet to be documented? And did someone in ancient China, which predated what this Mesoamerican tomb, did they somehow traverse the Pacific and say, among other things, hey, you know what's cool? Putting mercury in the tombs of your prominent cadavers,
We talk about this all the time in just our thinking, and just all of us, our thinking has to be measured a lot and refined when we, just from even our history classes, stuff that's in textbooks when you're growing up and going to primary school and stuff like that. Just how we have to reshape our brains a little bit when we're thinking about societies that have come before us, to make sure we're not, on some high horse,
Right.
no matter where you're from or what you look like or where you come from. Just make sure you're not looking down on people and cultures.
Hmm.
And I have to say I'm flummoxed when it comes to this Mercury, but unless it really is just what you're saying, because I can totally see the reflective nature of it, the strange. I mean, Mercury, if you look at Mercury right now in
So cool.
2021, it's weird. It
So
doesn't,
cool.
yeah, it's so cool. It doesn't seem real. It doesn't seem right. Any liquefied metal just feels very strange. Especially one that's at room temperature or just, sitting on the ground or in a cup or something and still looks like that. Um,
Hmm.
it 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 seems to be imbued with special properties because in a way it kind of is.
Very much so. Yeah. And that's an excellent observation. I mean, you and I have talked about this before when we looked into things like megaliths, or we looked into stone circles, these ancient feats of amazing engineering. Um, the past is really a conversation. The past is a series of evolving questions that we're ultimately asking of ourselves and our predecessors. And whenever somebody gets on a high horse about people of years and millennia gone by, myself included, we always have to remind ourselves, if you traveled back in time to the time of the people you're dunking on, the odds are overwhelming that you would be kind of useless.
Yeah.
Like that we would be kind of useless. We wouldn't, I mean, we might have a leg up on certain diseases. We might have an understanding of certain things, but like, could you build a solar panel? Could you build a television? Could you build a car or a gun? For most people, probably not. And then think of all the things that the average person nowadays can't do that the average person back then probably could. Like, can you grow and maintain a crop and see it through for a year such that you can feed yourself? If you say crops are boring, well, can you hunt? Can you make the tools you need to hunt? Let's stop dunking
Yeah.
on these
Yeah.
people. They're different, varied knowledge sets. And we don't
Seriously,
even.
ask yourself. I know there are a select few of you out there who can do this without even question, without even thinking about it. But can you effectively start a fire from nothing? That is so much more difficult than it sounds. Uh, well, unless you get trained or you're an Eagle Scout, Ben, or you've just watched a couple YouTube videos, which you can do and teach yourself, but it is
Mhm.
still difficult, even if you know how to do it.
I'm going to say this, and this is just my opinion. Some people may disagree, Matt. Lighting a fire, the like old fashioned, I just went out in the woods and found the stuff to make a fire, lighting a fire, it sucks.
It really
It's
does.
just get some flint with you, just carry a lighter and don't mess it up. It's just like, or waterproof matches, that's fine too. It's just like the bow and the stick
Yeah.
method. It's just
Get a tinder box. That's all you
yeah, get
need.
a tinderbox. Yeah. Otherwise, yeah. Sorry. And this will sound weird out of context, but we love fires here at Stuff They Don't Want You to Know. It's an important piece of human technology. Well, it's not really human technology. It's just something in the natural world that we've managed to work with, but never quite domesticate or tame. The mercury thing, right? So we know there's a mystery afoot. It's happening in what current understanding tells us is two different cultures, minimum. There are probably more. Two different cultures divided by geographic space and divided by linear time were doing relatively similar things with Mercury. We do know a little bit more, like archaeologists haven't even agreed on the proper name of the Mesoamerican society that we just mentioned, but we do know a little bit more about this time in ancient China because we have documents from that time, actual physical writing from this time. And the story is that at the time, ancient Chinese thought said that Mercury could bestow immortality. So the emperor was taking mercury pills to help elongate his lifespan, and that probably killed him by the age of 39. Died pretty comparatively young for the modern era.
Wow.
So they thought it was medicinal, and that belief would prove to be incorrect. I don't want to spend our whole time on this, but I do want to set up something that will be a full episode in the future. And Ernest, I hope you tune in. There's one point, the third point you made that really, I don't know about you, Matt, stuck with me. Could this be used to levitate things? So what's interesting about this is that there's something called Vimana, these mythological flying chariots or palaces that are described in ancient Sanskrit and Hindu text as though they are real. They're described as not in like a, hey, let me tell you a fun story kind of thing. They're described as though they are actual vehicles or cars or chariots of the gods. And I don't want to spoil too much of that on this point, but Ernest, it's on our minds as well. And we would like to make this a future episode. So thank you for calling. I hope that it's interesting to learn that we can confirm at least two of the three things you mentioned. Mercury is a superconductor at a very low temperature. It has yet to be explained why ancient civilizations that seem to have never met would treat it with the same sort of, or hold it in the same high regard.
Yeah. And if you want to watch that Ancient Aliens episode that Ernest mentioned, it is, at least according to this website that I'm looking at, season 11, episode 4, and it's called The Mercury Connection.